Sometimes love isn't lost all at once. It unravels in quiet moments, overheard words, and truths we weren't meant to hear. Gavin thought he was building a life grounded in trust, loyalty, and shared dreams with Natalie. But when a casual phone call revealed something far less romantic than he imagined, the future he'd been carefully planning took a turn he never saw coming. There was a time I thought I had everything figured out. I'm Gavin, 35, an accountant for a regional firm. Not flashy, but steady. I've always believed that if you build slowly, build honestly, and build smart, you end up with something lasting. That belief guided every part of my life, including my relationship with Natalie. She's 30, a marketing coordinator at a mid-sized agency downtown. We met through mutual friends at a barbecue, the kind of event where no one expects to meet someone life-changing. But there she was, funny, sharp, with that easy confidence that turns heads without trying to. Before we get into the sweet part, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. If you're watching us for the first time, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification so you never miss any new story. We'd been together for 3 years. Moved in together just over a year ago. It was comfortable, easy in the right ways, and challenging in the ways that make you grow. We talked about marriage often, not in vague daydreams but in real terms. Finances, family, timelines. We even browsed engagement rings on lazy Sunday afternoons. She gravitated toward classic solitaire settings, often pausing to admire pieces in the 1 to 2 carat range. At least, that's what I thought she liked. Looking back, maybe I missed the signs. Natalie had always been image conscious. Not in a Kardashian kind of way, but she cared about appearances. Designer handbags bought on layaway, carefully curated Instagram posts. Holiday photos shot for the likes, not the memories. At the time, I chalked it up to her profession. Marketing is about perception after all. But there's a difference between caring about how something looks and letting that dictate your values. I hadn't figured out which side of the line she was on yet. I started saving for a ring last fall. Every month, I put away what I could, cut back on nights out, paused my gym membership, even skipped my annual ski trip with the guys. It added up slowly but surely. By mid-spring, I had just enough. I went to a local jeweler and picked out a beautiful 1.5 carat diamond in a white gold setting. It cost me nearly $10,000, about 3 months of my net income after taxes and bills. It wasn't flashy, but it was elegant, timeless, and within the realm of what I believed Natalie had subtly hinted at in the past. The jeweler assured me I'd made a smart choice. This one's for someone who appreciates classic beauty, she said. I left the store with the ring box nestled in a velvet pouch, my heart pounding with excitement. The proposal was set for the coming weekend, her favorite restaurant, followed by a walk to the park where we'd had our first kiss. I rehearsed my speech in my head a dozen times. Then Tuesday happened. It was one of those rare days when the office let us go early. System upgrades or something. So I got home around 2 p.m. The apartment was quiet, except for Natalie's voice. Echoing from the living room, she was on a video call with her sister Rachel, who lives in California. I headed to the kitchen to grab a drink, not intending to eavesdrop. But the way our place is laid out, you can hear everything from the kitchen. Natalie was laughing. Gavin's been acting all secretive lately, she said, her voice brimming with excitement. I think he's finally going to propose this weekend. Rachel squealed from the screen. Oh my God, really? Are you excited? Have you seen the ring? No, Natalie replied, her tone shifting. But Rachel, I need to tell you something. I've been doing a lot of research on engagement rings. I have standards now. If he proposes with anything under 3 carats, I'm saying no on the spot. I froze mid-sip. 3 carats. That's a $40,000 ring. Rachel sounded shocked too. Natalie? That's like celebrity tier expensive. Gavin's not rich. I know exactly what they cost, Natalie said casually. But I've been with him for 3 years. I've been the perfect girlfriend. I deserve a ring that reflects his commitment. Rachel hesitated. What if it's beautiful, but just not huge? Like, maybe he spent a lot, but it's smaller. Then he didn't do his research, Natalie said flatly. I've looked at what coworkers are wearing. 2 carats is the norm now. I can't show up to work with some tiny chip that screams budget. It would be embarrassing. It wasn't just the words. It was the certainty behind them. She wasn't joking. She wasn't half serious. She was laying out her expectations with the kind of clarity that only comes from planning. She went on. If he proposes publicly with something smaller, I'll say yes in the moment, of course. But afterward, I'll explain we need to exchange it for something appropriate before we tell anyone. Appropriate? I stood there for what felt like forever, my stomach tightening. The ring I'd picked after months of saving, planning, and imagining her face when I opened the box wasn't a ring to her. It was a test. a status symbol. And if it didn't measure up, she'd fail me before I ever got the chance to put it on her finger. I went back to the bedroom quietly, numb. Opened the closet, took out the box, and stared at it. That diamond had felt like a promise. Now it felt like a warning sign. I didn't sleep much that night. The next morning, I called the jeweler, asked about the return policy. Fortunately, I was within the 30-day window. Since it hadn't been sized or engraved, I could return it with just a 10% restocking fee. That afternoon, I drove back to the store and handed it over. Walked out with a refund receipt for $9,000 and a pit in my chest the size of Manhattan. I didn't tell Natalie what I heard. Not right away. That would have given her time to spin it, justify it, say things she didn't mean. I wanted her to reveal herself. I took the return receipt, folded it carefully, and placed it inside the now empty ring box. Put it back in the closet, same spot as before. That night, Natalie was all smiles. She made dinner, lit a candle, asked how my day was. "This weekend's going to be special," she said, grinning. As she poured me a glass of wine, I nodded. "Yeah, really special." She had no idea what was coming. The weekend arrived faster than I expected, and with every passing hour, Lauren's anticipation became harder to ignore. She had this glow about her, a lightness in her step, an extra shine in her eyes. She was dressing nicer, checking her phone, constantly and casually mentioning how much she loved surprises. There was no question in her mind that I was going to propose, but I wasn't about to start a lifelong commitment with someone who viewed love through the lens of carrot size. Still, I wasn't interested in making a scene or lashing out. I wasn't angry, not yet anyway. I was hurt deeply. It wasn't about the money or the ring anymore. It was about the realization that the woman I thought I was going to build a life with was building a fantasy rooted in status, not substance. And that's not the kind of life I was willing to sign up for. So I followed through on the plan. Or at least, the parts she was expecting. I booked a dinner reservation at her favorite restaurant. White tablecloths, soft jazz, candlelight. Lauren wore a black dress that fit her like it was made for the occasion. She was stunning, no doubt about that. And watching her across the table, laughing, swirling wine in her glass, you'd never guess what was really about to unfold. The ring box was in my jacket pocket, light now, except for the folded receipt inside. I touched it a few times during dinner like a nervous tick. She kept glancing at my hands, probably wondering when I was going to drop to one knee and make her fantasy official. We ordered dessert, her favorite creme brulee, and when the plates were cleared, I stood up. Her eyes widened, lips parting slightly, hands instinctively going to her chest like a reflex. I walked to her side of the table, slowly, deliberately, and pulled out the little box. Her breath caught. She smiled like a child on Christmas morning. And right then, for just a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost I got down on one knee. Her hands flew to her mouth, and she began nodding even before I said anything. "Lauren," I began, my voice low but steady. "We've been through a lot together over the past 3 years. We've talked about forever, about growing old, building a family, creating a life." She nodded furiously, tears already forming in her eyes. "But before we take that step," I continued, "there's something important I need you to see." I opened the box. The sparkle of a diamond wasn't there. Just a thin white piece of paper folded neatly. Her expression flickered from joy to confusion to mild panic. She looked up at me. "What? What is this?" I stood up and placed the box in her hands. "It's the receipt for the ring I returned." She blinked rapidly. "Returned? I don't understand." I sat back down, taking my time. "Lauren, a few days ago you were on a call with your sister. You didn't know I was home early. I heard everything." Her face drained of color. "I heard you say that if the ring was under 3 carats, you'd say no. That anything smaller would embarrass you in front of your coworkers. That if I proposed, with what I could afford, you'd accept in the moment, and then tell me to exchange it for something appropriate." I paused, watching the words sink in. That conversation changed everything for me. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. "I had bought the ring already," I said, leaning forward. "I had it picked out. A beautiful 1.5 carat stone. It wasn't huge, but it was thoughtful. I spent months saving for it. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to, because I love you. Or at least, I loved the version of you I thought I knew." Tears spilled from her eyes. "Declan, I didn't mean it like that. You have to understand." I held up a hand. "Don't. Please. Let's not play the out-of-context game. You meant it exactly how you said it. You laid out your expectations with complete clarity." She reached across the table, trying to grab my hand. I was just venting. "Girls say things like that. I didn't mean it literally. It was just dumb talk. I didn't know you were listening. That's the point, Lauren, I said. You didn't think I was listening, which means you felt comfortable saying it. That's who you are when no one's watching. I was nervous, she cried. You've been acting weird. I didn't know if a proposal was really coming. I panicked. I didn't want to get my hopes up. You weren't panicking, you were calculating. You said you'd say yes in the moment just to avoid embarrassment, then force me to upgrade the ring. That's not a joke. That's manipulation. She dropped her head into her hands. I'm sorry, she whispered. Please, I don't want to lose you over a stupid comment. It wasn't stupid, I said softly. It was revealing. And now I see things I didn't want to see before. The silence between us stretched on. Around us, other diners laughed and toasted and clinked glasses. But at our table, the air was heavy. She finally spoke again, voice shaky. I do love you, I really do. I believe you loved the idea of us, I said, but love built on conditions, on measurements. That's not love I want to spend a lifetime chasing. Her expression crumpled. So what? You're just ending this. I sighed. I think you ended it the moment you decided a rock meant more than the relationship behind it. I stood, placed a few bills on the table to cover dinner, and slid the box toward her. You can keep the receipt, maybe frame it as a reminder. And then I walked out. The night was crisp and the stars were unusually clear. I felt hollow and heavy all at once, like something I'd built brick by brick had collapsed in slow motion. But beneath that pain was clarity. The kind that only comes when a mask finally slips and you see what's been behind it all along. She didn't come after me that night, but the next morning, that's a different story. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on my bed, staring at the ceiling as the silence around me grew louder. The room felt too quiet to still, like it was holding its breath after everything that happened. The ghost of Emma's voice replayed. In my head, especially the part where she said she didn't want to lose me, but that was the problem. She hadn't really lost me. She lost the idea of what she thought our life would be, driven by status, appearances, and expectation. Around 7:30 the next morning, I was still wide awake, lying fully dressed on top of the covers. My phone buzzed on the nightstand for the 5th time. I didn't need to check. It was Emma. She had started texting me just after midnight. The first few messages were desperate. Please talk to me. I messed up. You know I did. I wasn't thinking. I was scared you'd never propose. Then came the emotional pivot. More pleading, then guilt-tripping, then bargaining. She even tried humor at one point. Guess I'll never make it to 3 carats now. I didn't reply, not because I was trying to punish her, but because I genuinely didn't know what I could say that hadn't already been made crystal clear by the time the sun had fully risen and filtered through my blinds. There was a knock at the door. Not a soft one. It was forceful, panicked. I already knew. I opened it to find Emma standing there, her makeup smudged, hair still in the neat bun from the night before. Though it had lost its shape, she was wearing one of my hoodies, something she must have grabbed from the apartment, and holding a small overnight bag in her hand. Jordan, she said, barely above a whisper. Her eyes were red-rimmed and puffy, the kind of cry that had lasted hours and carried through the night. I didn't say anything, just stepped aside to let her in. She walked in slowly, as if waiting for the floor to collapse beneath her feet. Her eyes scanned the apartment like it was both familiar and foreign. She set the bag down near the couch and turned to face me. I couldn't sleep, she said. I kept thinking about what you said, about who I am when no one's watching. I folded my arms, leaning against the wall. Okay. She flinched slightly at how flat my tone was, but pressed on. I didn't mean to hurt you, Jordan. That wasn't my intention. I know it wasn't, I replied. But it doesn't really change that you did. She nodded, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. I know, she took a breath. You have to understand that. My whole life I've been taught that things mean something, that big gestures are proof of love, that a ring shows commitment, that size meant effort. I wasn't trying to be shallow. I was trying to feel secure. Secure, I echoed. By comparing me to your ex? By saying if I couldn't measure up, literally, I wasn't good enough. She looked ashamed. That was the worst thing. I could have said I wasn't thinking. I was mad at you for being distant and scared you'd never propose. And I just wanted to say something that made me feel like I was in control. And how's that working out for you now? I asked. She didn't answer. She just sat down on the couch, head in her hands again. I was proud of that ring, I continued. I picked it out because it reminded me of you, elegant, but not flashy, classy, meaningful. I thought it would make you feel special because it came from me with intention. But it turns out none of that mattered to you unless it sparkled. Under artificial lighting with enough intensity to impress your coworkers. Her voice broke. That's not fair, isn't it? I asked, because if you'd told me that you wanted something specific, if you'd been honest, I would have at least known where we stood. But what I got instead was a carefully rehearsed fantasy where I play a part you wrote for me without telling me. Silence. She stared at the floor for a long moment before finally speaking. I miss you, she whispered. I know I messed up, but I love you. I didn't realize how badly I'd hurt you until you walked away. And then it hit me. None of that other stuff matters. Not the ring, not the size, not the carats. I just want you. I believe she meant it. At least, in that moment. But the problem with moments is they're fleeting. Regret isn't the same thing as reflection. You can regret getting caught. You can regret losing comfort. But that doesn't always mean you understand what needs to change. I don't think you love me, Emma, I said calmly. I think you loved what I could give you, what we looked like together, the milestones, the image. But love doesn't measure worth in grams or price tags. Her eyes welled up again, but this time she didn't cry. Can't I prove to you that I'm more than that? I shook my head. This isn't a test. I'm not looking for you to earn something back. I'm just realizing we weren't on the same page. And maybe we never were. The words sat between us like an open wound. She stood slowly and wiped at her face. So what now? I think we both take time to think about what we really want separately. A long pause. She nodded. Okay, I'll give you space. She picked up her bag and walked toward the door, but paused before opening it. If you change your mind, I'll be around. I didn't answer. She opened the door and stepped out as soon as it closed behind her. I exhaled a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. It hurt. Of course it hurt. Ending something real, something that had taken root in your routines and your heart, is never easy. But sometimes what hurts more is staying in something that asks you to become someone you're not. That day I chose me. Not in a selfish way, but in a self-preserving one. Because love, real love, should never feel like a competition or a transaction. It should feel like a partnership. And I was done settling for anything less. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more of these stories.